PR Connections Radio presents
Good afternoon and welcome back to Cozy Up and Pay Attention Season 2. If you're looking at my lovely face this afternoon, it's Tuesday and it's 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I have another parent for you, a dad today who is going to tell us how he sacrificed, compromised, and loved his children to get them out of his house. So if you would please take a deep breath and exhale. We'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
Would you please give me my wonderful gentleman guest today, Mr. William Brown? Hi, William.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. One thing about you that's sort of giving me chill bumps is your smile and your voice is like a nephew who's now deceased, and his name was William.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah, it's a good thing.
Well, wonderful.
I'm gonna make
But-
sure I'm gonna make sure his mother watches the show and see if she hears it and sees what I see. Before we get started, I always like to say to the audience, we know that there are a lot of books on the shelf, but none of them tells us the best practices for our children. Each and every one of your children have different DNA, so not only are there not the same practices, but what should you teach your children? Regardless of what some of you may think, there is no such thing as a perfect parent. And this show has nothing to do and will never have anything to do with parent shaming. We would like to enhance the parenting experience by enlightening, informing, and educating by your experiences. So before we get started, William, I like to give the audience an idea of what your background was like, because we are where we came from. Can you tell us, where did your parents meet, city and place, city and state, and how old were they when they had their first child?
So, my mother, Patricia, and my father, Willie, she was about 17 years old, I believe 17, 18 years old when they met and got together, but they were in the neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it was like neighborhood kids. You know, my mother was the oldest of 12 kids. I know, right? So, you know, when the Brown children, were out, there was a block party, right? And so there was a lot of kids. So my dad was friends with, brothers, my mom's brothers and everything. And so, how they got together, the world may never know, but they got together at least one time, and here I am, right?
That's hilarious. So they grew up in the same block together. They were childhood friends.
Yeah, they were, and they weren't. Let's just say that. Because,
All right. Fast the aftermath.
Right.
This is what we're so. But since you brought it up, let me ask:
Right.
Did they raise you together or not?
They did not.
They did not. Okay.
Right.
So he didn't quit it.
Right. Well, yeah. My the story that I got is my dad was friendly with someone else at the same time.
Of course he was.
And their his parents made him choose, and he chose the other.
Wow.
So yeah. So even though I'm their oldest, the his second was months after.
Okay. All right. So let's get into you and see
Got
if you followed suit.
Right.
Where did you meet your? Let me just get this to make sure I can have this right. Was it have you been married twice, or you just have children with two different women?
I have children with two different women.
All right.
And I was
Where did you meet?
married once.
All right, let's stop. So where did you meet the mother of your first child, and how old were you two?
College. We met in college, and I was 20. So yeah, so I was 20 years old. That happened. She left, and then a couple of years later, I met my wife in college. You know, the same college, and we got married. And 3 years after that, we had our first child.
Okay. So let me ask. I don't have a lot of males, but I've had a few. As a male, did you? Let me say this correctly.
Okay.
I know. Did you want to? Let me ask. This is the question. Did you want to have children? Whether they were planned or unplanned, did you want to have children as a young man?
Right. I wanted a family, right? Because that was something that I felt that was missing. Right.
Good.
There was a lot of not father figures, but people who, you know, that my mom was in relationship with, that kind of took on a fatherly role and didn't, you know, type of thing. But I knew that I wanted to be a part of a family, be the opposite of my dad, and be there. And you know, the first person didn't want a family. She just wanted a child. I didn't realize that until she left, right? You know, and so feeling that, oh crap, I am my dad now. You know, even though I didn't leave, I was not a part, you know, of my daughter's life. So, you know, dealing with that and trying to, you know, reconcile that, and then getting married, and then, you know, I don't think I say that my wife decided when we, you know, it was a decision, right? you know, she wanted to have children.
Okay.
I wanted to have a family. She decided this is when we're gonna start. So I was like, okay, and I went along with it, and it was wonderful. But it was
good. All right. So, but with that first question, and you did answer, once you had your unplanned, in your head, you wanted to have children, so it wasn't a bad thing. And as you said, not only did you were ready to step up to the plate, and she wanted to get rid of you.
Right.
Well, good for you as a man. So, right. We get men on here, and women think all men are runners. You weren't a runner.
Right.
You were ran away from.
Right.
Different. However, and I do understand that you were not involved in your first daughter's life until she was 13 or so. Right. But that's so where we're going to pick up from this point forward is all four of them in your life. But let's go back to we're going to stick with your wife.
Right.
When you met her, you already wanted children. So I like to ask, William, we're all attracted by one of three things or all of three things. Was it her beauty, her brawn, or her brain And you can even think of the first young lady that you had the kid with. I mean,
Right.
you were young, but you still, was it her butt? Was it her legs? Was it her
Right.
brains? Was it her hair? Was it her eyes?
You're right. I think beauty. I think really, at that time, just it's like say making a comparison because I haven't made any comparisons of the two. I've been married for 35 years, so when my wife watches this and it's like the two things that they had in common was, I saw them as beautiful, kind, women, right? And that's who, at the time that I wanted to be connected to. And while I was doing that, if there was this kindness and this attractiveness or something, there was something that was intriguing, to me. And then when, the first one, when everything happened, we saw another side of that, but the initial thing was the beauty.
Okay. And I am remiss in not asking you if you were still with your wife because I love having couples.
I am. Yeah. We've been married for 33 years. We've been together for 35 years, but 33 years married.
I messed up. Yeah. So we're going to have to be real careful in your answers you give. Okay. So it was unplanned. Well, actually, with your wife, you guys were already together as husband and wife, and then you're planning your family. So we're talking about planned children. So here you were, a young man. You wanted to have a different life than the one you were given as from a man's point of view.
Right.
So even when you heard the news, let's go back to your first daughter for a moment. And this young lady comes to you and gives those magic words that every man loves to hear from a woman. I'm pregnant.
Right.
Did you feel fear or fantasy? You're 17 years old, were you?
No, at the time I was like 19 years old.
All right. So I want to know what does a man think when the women come to him and say, I'm pregnant?
I think it's there. I think there was a fear. I will say fear because there was so many plans, right? There was plans for my life. I felt that was plans, for her life. And there was but at the same time, there was the fantasy, a part of it. It's because there was a part of my personality that I, in some cases I still have today that, I can make this work. I can figure this out, it's type of thing, even though it's crap, right? This is what I'm dealing with, but I can figure this out. This will work out. But like many things, you don't get to say if it's going to work out or how it's going to go. And so that's where it can go from there. So initially it was fear.
All right. And let me go back a step. Where did you meet did you say you met your wife in college or you met your?
Yeah, I met them both at the same college, right? Yeah.
And what city was that?
That's another story. That's it's a town called Greensburg, Pennsylvania. It's like an hour out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's go with your wife and your three kids. Because we're talking about one household right now.
Right.
She was raised with her parenting.
Right.
You were raised, you had your background. You're now together to build a life for other people.
Right.
What were some of the sameness that you both were offering your children?
It's the sameness. That's an interesting thing because in some cases I had this this way of believing that the mother or the wife, it's her house, and I kind of help the helpmate with it and kind of create the structure, and she makes it a home or she makes it. So there was a lot of things that I didn't know that was a part of her. She's adopted, right? So, and her two-parent adoptive home, there was a lot of things that I didn't know that she wanted to do the opposite of, right? She wanted to, they were kind of strict, and, they were older parents. So they were strict and Catholic and all of that type of thing that was going on. So she was like, this is great, but I don't want to do some of that. And me coming from a single parent home, I wanted to, not be the opposite of that and go from there.
I'm going to take a blame here. I should have asked the other way. So let me go back a minute.
Got it.
What were some, and it sounds like quite a few. So give me just maybe 2 or
Right.
3 of the differences that you
Right.
guys had to meld together in one home.
Right. I think the differences was a lot of freedom that I had because my parent wasn't there. My mom wasn't home a lot. So there's a lot of things that I had to figure it out. And so I brought that to my kids of, hey, figure it out. It's like,
Oh,
don't be
God.
crying about this or something. I could help them, but
Right.
it's like, you're not gonna die, right? It's like type of thing.
God. Okay.
And there was this, with her, it wasn't coddling. It was kind of, I want to kind of almost a mother hen kind of making sure all of that. And it was just like, stop it, right? Type of thing. That was the biggest difference. That it wasn't that I didn't want to be my kid's friend, but I didn't want to, make them soft, right? I didn't want them to be, when I wasn't around, I wanted them to be able to figure it out.
I get it.
And so those were the biggest differences.
Wow, that's a very interesting household. Where did you live during your raising of your children? I mean, Vegas now.
In North Carolina. So
Okay.
we were in the Carolinas, and I still hear about that. My wife was 5 months pregnant when we moved from Pittsburgh to North Carolina.
You took her away from her parents.
Yeah, her parents and my mom, and I still hear, about, that, and our support system was like the church that we were going to.
And that was my next question. So thank you for answering that. Everybody needs a support system. Now you're
Right.
telling me you left your support system.
Right.
And where did you get it? You got it from the church. It doesn't matter.
Right. And it was something at the time that we realized that because of our different upbringings,
Mhm.
that we were going to have to chart a different path together. And
Good.
so because we didn't have my mom and her parents, kind of
In your business.
deciding, right, in our business, right, I love your type of thing. It was, in a different, it's like, oh, these 2 20-year-old, knuckleheads coming, hey, we're going to help them, right, type of thing. And we had a very supportive church in that.
Good. All right. So this may be no. You're gonna answer this. Let's go to your home only.
Right.
I think you may have answered it on a little bit. What were some of the things that you either saw, William, positive or negative, that you have passed on to your children? You mentioned a moment ago you didn't want them to be punks.
Right.
That's my word.
Right. I got it.
Got like punks to me.
Right.
So can you give me 1 or 2 things that you would say to them that chances are they may, if they have kids down the line or help anybody else's kid, they would say to these kids?
Right. The one thing negative wise, and it's something that I've been working through the past couple years for myself, is that the emotional level in my house growing up was like out of control. Like when people were angry or frustrated, it was it was just a lot for me as an introvert. It was just a lot, and so I made that mean that emotions, showing your emotions, was bad, right? Because emotions turned into violence, turned into slamming doors, turned into throwing stuff, throwing through, get the hell out, right? So I created an environment where in some ways I think it was bad or not as constructive to kind of suppress your emotions, to kind of like, okay, just, kind of get your emotions under control so we can have this conversation. And so I wish I would have been able to, make different choices about expressing the emotion.
Do you find at their age now that all of them or some of them still are suppressing their emotions?
I think so. And around and within our conversations, sometimes they're it's kind of managed. And sometimes when I share, my emotions are like, oh, that's new, Dad, right? It's like, and
okay. That shows
that is
the growth, and they can also latch
right,
on
and
to
they
that.
can right.
So let's get to your questions. The
Okay.
first question that you chose is, tell me 3 things you wish you knew before becoming a parent, William.
Right. I think the biggest thing was what being present was. It's not just physically there, it's mentally, emotionally, and all that. I wish someone would have said it's not just about being in the house, right? Because there are some times that I was there that I wasn't there because I was worried about work and all that other kind of stuff. That the my guidance, right? How I, that I wasn't just the parole officer, like keeping everybody in line, right? That's what so it's like, no, there is an other way. Your parenting is not just being, the parole officer for, for these children. And really defining what safety, right? What, means, really kind of understanding what keeping them safe, and not being this overprotective, going back to this type of thing, because I was so concerned about their safety, which, it's, another question of my responsibility. That is a responsibility that I believe that I had. But in some cases, there was so much that fear of their safety and what that meant. So really having someone talk to me about that.
I think though, I'm going to give you a break.
Okay.
That particular one, I believe, only comes with being a parent. Keeping your kids safe, every mother, every father, mother that has a child, that is probably first and foremost.
Absolutely.
After loving them and feeding them, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Keeping them safe. Can you keep them too safe? Only if you live in New York.
Right. It's like, right.
In a neighborhood. However, even with that, that's a learned behavior. So stop beating yourself up with that.
Okay.
Let's get to the next question.
Okay.
Give me 3 responsibilities. You may have answered this a little bit. Give me 3 things, 3 of your responsibilities as a parent. The top 3 off the top of your head. What are the top 3 things, responsibilities of a parent?
Right. It's safe. It's safety. It's guidance. And it's love, right? And it's so those are the things that I just try to be there for them, so they know that if they have any questions, any need of me, I can guide them, not tell them.
I'm gonna give you another reprieve here. Sounds like I'm a therapist, but let me help you with
something.
Right. This is what I do. So the fact that you're on this show, William,
right?
The fact that you've got 4 adult children that are on their own, taking care of themselves.
Right.
Give yourself a pat on the back and stop beating yourself over woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Right.
There's
Got it.
no, let me repeat what I said at the beginning of my show. There is no such thing as a perfect parent.
Absolutely.
And you won't be the first and you won't be the last. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. So let's get to your next question.
Got
I'm
it.
so glad you came. I'm glad we're having this time together because you obviously needed me. Explain an unexpected challenge. Woo, with 4 kids.
Yeah, it's the challenge was you know me working out of the home and the mindset of me saying I'm doing this for my family, right? For my children.
Mhm.
And the challenge was that a lot of my doing wasn't with my children, so with my family. So I did a lot of things, direct deposit, nice home, and I'm traveling, I'm away, and not realizing that my kids and my family needed me. And it wasn't just the life that I didn't have, right? Because
Mhm.
that's really what I was working hard for and doing taking the jobs that I was doing. So in my mind, it was like, I'm doing this for the family, I'm doing this for my children. But the challenge was I wasn't with them as much as I wanted to be.
Okay, here I go again. Oh, William, I'm telling you, you should have coffee before the show. Listen to me, William. You did not know what you did not know.
Absolutely.
What you were doing, again, you knew you wanted to be the father you didn't have, and you wanted to be
Right.
a better father figure to your kids, and you
Right.
were. What do fathers figures know? First and foremost is roof over the head, gas on, cars, and nothing turned off, clothes.
Right.
That's what dads know. The other
Right.
part, and you said it at the beginning of the show, the nurturing, the taking care, and the structure of the house was your wife, and she told
Right.
you how to do all of that. You did your job.
Right. Got it.
Now, unless you just want to, at whatever age you are, go back and have another kid, and I don't suggest
Right.
it, you've
Yeah.
done, right?
That. Right.
You did. Maybe, when this show is over and your kids watch this show, you can sit down with them and say, guys, tell me what I did. Did I do okay?
Right.
And I don't know them, but my gut tells me
Right.
they're going to say, Dad, we're better than most of our family, most of our
Right.
parents' family,
Right.
right?
Got
So,
it.
all right, here we go. So glad we had this time together. Okay. So what C word did you practice most? Did you practice choices, consequences, consistency, or compassion? Now take a minute, think of all 4 of your kids and which one of those words did you practice the most? Choices, consistency, consequences, or compassion. This is you giving to them to go out into the world.
Right. I would say consequences, right? There was, I would have loved to give them more choices. There was,
No, not this time. Keep going this
but yeah,
way.
right.
Follow me,
Keep
William.
going that way. But it was consequences because I was always telling them that, you go down this road, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. What do you think it's going to, and it was like, because I wasn't there a lot, right? Because I was there and I wasn't, right? And so there was this, all right, I see where you're going, right? And this is what's going to happen if we kind of keep going down this road.
Right.
So that was a steady message,
Good.
of my parenting with them.
Okay. And we all need that as parents. I did, you did, we all do. And real quick, when I do motivational speaking in the schools, I'll say to the classroom, but I'll look at one kid with this strong, straight up thought, and I'll say, if I ask you right now to get up and bang your head into that wall, get up and do it. And the kids' eyes, of course, get this big and they just, oh my God, this woman's lost her mind. And I'm being persistent about it. Get up right now, bang your head into the wall. And they'll say, no. I said, why not? And they say, because it's going to hurt. Those are called consequences.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Most of the time, as children, as we get older, our consequences can become more
Right.
enjoyable, right?
Right.
But as a child, not knowing better, um, consequences need to be dictated. Okay, so your last question is, what did you find the most challenging part about raising children?
The most challenging part was that here's the language that I would use. My father label, right? What I thought a father was, that's what I was doing. There were many times where William, who I am,
Mhm,
wasn't involved. It
mhm,
was more of, okay, what would a dad do? What would a father do? This is what, instead of just listening to my kids, instead of just listening to these human beings that I am responsible for, right? And so that was something that I am learning now,
mhm,
when I communicate with my adult children, is
mhm.
that yeah, I'm dad and I'm not dad, right?
Right, right.
And that is something that I wish I would have had that more.
All right, so here I go again. That I'm sorry, I know stuff. That's a slippery slope.
Right,
One of the things that parents do more often today than our parents and what you were doing with your kids is they want to be their children's friends. Well, it's not proving to be the best
right,
boy. Our
right,
society is showing that. My mother was not trying to be my friend.
right,
You can be their friend now.
right,
You all have earned the right, the respect, the love for being there for one another beyond parent and children.
right,
But when you're raising them, and there is, well, I'm thinking right now of a dad and his son. No, no. There is a point, and here's what it does. It establishes respect.
right.
That's
Got it.
all. You don't have your son getting in your face calling you out your name, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
Or your daughter calling her mother out the name. So at
Right.
a certain point, we have somebody, and I love to use this expression all the time. Someone has to be the adult, and I suggest to be you.
Right.
All right.
Got
And
it.
you were. And you were.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're gonna pull this all through.
Right.
You met you wanted to be a dad.
Right.
You had your first planned, unplanned, and she wanted to go off by herself. But so what? The universe put you back together again. She allowed you, and you had the privilege of having relationship with all four of your kids. You
Right.
married a wonderful woman who still puts up with you 33 years later. And
Yes.
and I would imagine, well, and maybe I'll have her on next week if she will. I need to get her on. While you were being dad, she was being mom.
Right.
Whatever you both were doing, again, you have four responsible adults who are out of the home, taking care of themselves and handling life the best they can, but without being underneath your roof. I think that's
Absolutely.
the ultimate. I
Absolutely.
think getting them out the house is a touchdown, right?
Right.
You can
Yes.
come visit. If you get in
Right.
trouble, you can come back for a minute, but this was your home,
Right.
right? You've accomplished all of that. You are stop being so hard on yourself.
Right.
The reality is, without knowing what you didn't know, you still did a fabulous job. And again, there is no such thing as a perfect parent. If everyone had all the answers, there would be no prisons. I mean,
Right.
we gotta have prisons. Ask the government. We don't have
Right.
prisons. They don't make money off of people who get the job.
Wow.
That's a fact,
That's
right?
funny.
Your kids aren't there.
They're
You're
not
not
there,
contributing. You're
right?
not contributing. You're helping taxes be paid. We like
Right.
that. But you did a fabulous job as a man, and yes, I get to say this as a brother of color who took on his responsibilities, and it's not another statistic. I want to say thank you.
Well, thank
And
you
I
for
know a lot of you, by the way, so you're not a real big deal to me. But
that.
you are, but
That's
you
good.
are a big deal to me, and you're a big deal to anyone who's listening that thinks, and puts us in a little box, and this is all we as people of color.
Got it.
We know that's all crap. So I am elated to have men, period, and I'm tickle pink when I can find a Black responsible dad to have on my show. Let's get to your fun question. Your fun question is, and now after all of this, I really find this a funny question. Well, Mr. William, tell me the three best things about you. Hit it.
I think that I live my values. My values are independence, compassion, and curiosity. And I look for those things in everything that I do. And so having a conversation like this, I'm curious to know about Cozy and what I think about my my parenting. I know that it's my experience, and you have reminded me to have compassion with myself about all of this. And so the more that I just live my values, it's all good.
And again, let me just put this in there. Remember the pronoun that you just used, my. That's all that matters. I am starting to talk to more people about comparisons of life and comparing this and that. And a lot of people get on here and they'll say, well, Cozy, in my opinion, well, your opinion is the only one that matters right now. This is your interview. So whatever you say is the right answer. And it doesn't matter what they think. This is not Facebook where people get to come on and say, well, I didn't agree. I don't give a hoot. This is not that show. And right. I am not that person. We don't care what you think. If you found people, if you're watching this show, you've got something out of this. You've seen something in William that is similar to yourself. You've seen something in his parenting style that is similar to what you're doing, men and women, and it's helped you out somewhat and made you figure out yourself a little better than you were 5 minutes ago. We've done our job. Right? We've done our job. So before I let you go, in case you haven't picked these up yet, you must. Cozyisms, The Art of Paying Attention, my self-published books on Amazon. They are witty, they are whimsical, they are wise. And there's also some great art in here that you would appreciate. They're one-liners. So when people say to me, I don't read, and I say to them, shame on you for saying that out loud. They're not, yeah, people actually say that dumb shit out loud. So they're I don't usually curse, smack Cozy. So they're one-liners. And I'm telling you, you'll read it and you'll say, oh my God, double entendres. What does that mean to me? I wrote it, but it's general for anyone and ever read it. So I want to thank you. Society at large thanks you. You don't hear them say it, but I'm going to tell you they really do. Because again, you're not visiting people behind bars. That's a big deal. You get to go to Portland and East Coast Maryland, where they're from, North Carolina. You get to visit them in the real free world. Right. And for that, you and your wife and the mother of your first child, we say thank you. And I mean that. Unless God knows something I don't, I should be back here again next Tuesday at 2:00. Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition. If you're out there and you would like to share your wonderfulness with all of us, I can be reached at cozyupandpayattention@gmail. And I would love to hear from you, and I would love to put you on. If you have friends, William, or someone else that you know has done a great job, suggest my show to them, because I want to do this for a very long time, because it makes me feel good. How's that? As a non-parent. Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's right. Figure that out. However, folks, as you know and I know, sometimes in life, when you know better, you do better. We'll see you next week.